friends. You're just in time for the Johnny Brew Show.
And you do accept it as presented. All right. Correct. Trustees, please extend your vote right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Trustee Ford.
Yes, thank you, Trustee Ford.
Thank you. Dr. John, did you have an additional statement?
Here.
We don't care.
Yeah, who cares? We don't want to hear it.
Yes, they want to have a teacher in your lesson. Now we're going to all be gone. We have no September 7th walkout.
Goodbye. Well, you got your job, don't you? And you and Jack trying to get the job. Go on. Go. Yeah, I'm going. Shut up. And I'd like to mention.
And with that, by 5-1 vote, all CCSD employees will soon be mandated to get the vaccine by Dr. Jesus Jara, the superintendent of CCSD. My name is John Brookhagen. Welcome to the Johnny Brew Show. And, it's another exciting CCSD edition. I feel like we're doing them every week now. And these board meetings are atrocious. I mean, they are 5, 6, 7 hours long. People are trying to keep up with what's going on, and they simply can't. It's just too much. But this is so important that some people, God bless them, are there for the whole thing. Anna Binder, the Johnny Brew Show's educational correspondent, just got appointed to a committee. Congratulations. And she spoke. She's at all these meetings. All these speakers, we're covering all the everyday people speaking out and trying to celebrate them. Today on the Johnny Brew Show, we're actually going to be talking a little bit about more of the CCEA representatives and what the board had to say and stuff like that. Number one, you got to text us, 702-501-5304. If you text 702-501-5304, your comment, of course, will be read on the air as long as you're not calling me too bad languaged words. And of course, I want to share what you guys have to say. We have a couple of great guests who are going to supplement their comments right here live on the Johnny Brew Show. And please subscribe if you would. All right? We're not always covering the CCSD board meetings. We're also covering Republican Party Clark County activities. And we go all around the world because Chris Dyer loves when I do international news. Because I think I'm CNN or Tucker Carlson. Anyway, so I started with the end. That's how it ended. We got voted 5-1 in favor of giving Jesus Jara the ability to mandate vaccines. And the lone one was not the wild QAnon right-wing sole conservative on the board. Katie Williams was absent from this super important meeting. I do understand that, she had obligations with the National Guard, which of course, is commendable. But this was an important meeting, and I think one way or another she should have had her vote on the record on such a pivotal issue. Danielle Ford was the lone vote no. We're going to hear what she had to say in a little while. And otherwise, the whole board, besides Danielle Ford, all voted definitely let's mandate the vaccine after every single one of the regular people, not every single one. I would say 90% of the regular people were begging them not to vote in favor of this vaccine mandate. These people are board members, right? Like, for example, I'm thinking one day I'd like to run for the school board, right? Now, again, you all know I'm some idiot in my basement making my, happy little podcast here. What do I know, right? I also know that I am definitely qualified to do it. I would not be qualified to mandate a vaccine to 35,000 employees. And I promise you I'm more qualified to make that decision than most of the board members. It's not my place. I mean, it's really not my place. And I'm imagining I'm a board member. I'm a school board member. Who am I to tell 35,000 people they must get this shot? How could you, in good conscience, do that? I understand you supporting everybody getting vaccinated and pushing for it, but to mandate it when you're a school board member? You know, I don't think the President of the United States has that. Or the governor of our state has that ability. But I could understand the debate over if they did. The school board is now deciding better than me if me or somebody, a teacher in my family, should get the vaccine. Lola Brooks voted that she should decide whether or not you should get the vaccine. That ability to decide is not yours. Linda Cavazos says she should decide that you get a vaccine. That blows my flippin' mind. I could respect a trustee abstaining from this vote. Simply saying, this is not my place. How could... You know, it doesn't matter where you stand on the issue. You cannot have Lola Brooks, Danielle Ford, Katie Williams, Linda Cavazos, the three other ones, telling you what you should be chemically putting into your body. And what if they make it a third time and a fourth time? What if you're an employee at the school district and you have a 19-year-old son and they decide that he has to be vaccinated? I'm hearing all these crazy stories from teachers, like twins are getting suspended or kicked out of school. If you go to the nurse at CCSD and you tell them you have a tummy ache, they send you home for 10 days. If you have any COVID symptom, they send you home for 10 days. Even if you're a twin in bunk beds in the same bedroom in the same house. The one twin had a tummy ache and he's out of school for 10 days. Or I think in his case it was a week, but there was still a mandatory 5 days for him. Some schools it is 10. His twin sister continued to go to school. And let me tell you, man, if they're not licking each other's faces, they're darn close to it. And the boy wasn't sick. He probably pretended to have a tummy ache because he didn't like the lesson he was learning in class. But, yeah, so the hypocrisy is over. You know, it's just like the mandates at the stadium. You know, if you're holding a beer, you don't need a mask, and most people aren't wearing their mask all the time. But meanwhile, the stadium is mandating a mask. If you're going to mandate a mask, you have to mandate it. Your decision or your ability to not wear a mask or wear a mask when you're at a movie theater, when you're at a ball game, when you're at Walmart, comes down to one thing. Is there some lady or dude barking at you to put your mask on? What type of person is the employee today? And if you walk in, 80%, I'd say even 90% of workers are not enforcing the mask mandate. I never wear a mask. If somebody asks me nicely and I'm in the middle of Walmart or something to put on a mask, I'll put it on, finish my shopping. If they ask me with an attitude, I walk out of the store. But 90% of the time I go into stores, no problem. No mask, no problem. It totally only comes down to what person happens to be working at the store that day. And now, whoever happened to win some school board election is deciding if you should wear a mask or get the shot. All right, so on today's highlights, we're going to talk more about the officials who have been speaking. First, let's start off with the people who go to a lot of school board meetings have said this meeting was the most packed, most adrenaline pumped meeting they had ever seen in 15 years. And it started off with the pledge, and the Patriots are if you listen to the words of the pledge, you could understand why they're screaming like they do. Play tape. All right, hold on one second. I just had a little bit of audio difficulty. I am trying to get you guys all the coverage. And this thing is 7 hours. The Johnny Brew Show watched all this tape so we could bring you some highlights and so you could see everything you need to see. Does anybody know what that meant? I got that too because that's what everybody's talking about. All right. Here is the Pledge of Allegiance. And it's especially the left finds this satirical. It's kind of like a joke. But when you start saying the words, of the United States of America to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, freedom, liberty. That's what is at stake here. They're saying the pledge for a reason. There's a reason why we say, and I'm afraid when we're going to lose that. All right. So the first speaker we're going to play is Marie Nices. She's the president of CCEA. And I've been telling you all along that, when you have three entities like Vegas PBS, CCSD, and the CCEA, that is supposed to be our educational checks and balances, but they are one and the same. They are one enormous entity. And when even the CCEA is trying to pump the brakes, they're in a tough spot because the teachers union is woke and they're on board of everything on the left. But they have 40% of their employees, and how they make their money, union dues. If they lose 40% of teachers, or 20% of teachers, or 10% of teachers, CCEA loses 10% of its revenue. Now, we all know what the number one priority for, any union is: keep the revenue flowing. So this is what the CCEA president had to say during public comment. Marie Nices, play tape.
Can we please start Ms. Nice's time again? I apologize. Thank you. Good evening, President Cavazos, Trustee, Superintendent Jara. For the record, my name is Marie Nices, CCA President. As the only educator union recognized by CCSD that represents over 18,000 educators, we ask that you meet with us to discuss the possibility of a vaccine mandate. This school year has been hampered by the many challenges educators face during the pandemic. Our concern is the district's ability to put a vaccine mandate in place effectively. Dr. Jara's COVID testing mandate rollout was a disaster. Educators are demanding to know Dr. Jara's plan for the possible negative impact due to the number of educators and staff who have stated they will quit if the vaccine is mandated. The current educator and substitute shortage continues to put educators and students at risk at the increasingly larger class sizes. Classrooms that are without a teacher or substitute continue to be divided up amongst other classrooms. Unfortunately, keeping students safe through social distancing becomes impossible. If student outcomes are a priority, we need to have a plan in place that addresses the educator shortage, which will continue to escalate as their workloads and working conditions worsen. We are a member-led organization, and as such, we have heard from many of our members. While educators have strong opinions on the vaccine mandate, it is crystal clear that safety is their number one priority outside of educating our students. In this, we stand united. We strongly believe there are solutions and ask that our organizations meet before any policy or mandate is implemented. We believe this is a subject of bargaining and it would impact workload and working conditions. You, as trustees, should be asking hard questions of Dr. Jara on the issues we have just raised. He is looking for political cover by asking you to support this. Before you vote to support, you should have those answers so you can defend your position to the public and staff. To be clear, we support all efforts to make our schools, staff, and students as safe as possible, including vaccines, but the unintended...
Thank you. All right. Anyway, so obviously the teachers union isn't like super concerned about like personal liberty, personal choice, you know, not forcing a 23-year-old pregnant teacher to get a vaccine. They're worried about a logistical point of view. Well, again, they're worried about their revenue, but they're bringing up the logistical side. We're short so many teachers. Everybody was talking about how Jara and the board in general has really dropped the ball on just starting the school year this year. I mean, from buses to their new grading policy, which we're going to get into. The overcrowded classes, they don't have enough teachers, they don't have enough subs. So all they're doing is combining classes. So you got two classes of like 40 kids each. You get 80 kids and one teacher. What kind of learning do you think is really going on at CCSD? They're surviving. They're herding cattle. They're not teaching. And they're not worried about it. That, again, with the new grading system, which we'll allude to later. But, like she says, though, from a purely numerical point of view, if we lose 10 teachers because of this vaccine mandate, CCSD is up the river. And you want to be worried about COVID? Are you more worried about people being vaccinated? Even though these teachers who were vaccinated in January and February, their vaccination has worn off by now. And the people with natural immunity, it probably hasn't. So it's baffling. A teacher who got vaccinated in January is good to go. But somebody who got COVID in January has to get the vaccine. Even though the person who got COVID in January, scientifically proven to still have immunity, the person who got the vaccine in January, scientifically proven to now be susceptible and probably the first in line to get the third booster, since they were the first to get it in the first place. But yes, she's right. From a statistical, from a logistical point of view, we can't lose 5% of our teachers. 5% of our teachers would be over 500 teachers if we just lost 5%. If we lost 5 teachers, we'd be screwed. We need 1,500 more teachers. All right, and speaking of the trustees not being the people who should be deciding whether or not you take a vaccine, they should also be listening to the people that they represent. And everybody who spoke at that meeting, I don't know what district each one was from, but like I said, 90% of them were against a vaccine mandate. So this one particular person, is the only regular person I'm going to show, is Jamie Sullard. She wanted to just thank Danielle Ford, who does not align with the Johnny Brew Show's conservative views all the time. But she's genuine, and she's trying to do what's right. And more than any other elected official I could even recall, she tries to get the pulse of her constituents when making a tough decision. Play tape.
An algorithmic accident or possibly on purpose. Also, I want to acknowledge you, Trustee Ford. Thank you for being the only board member that is interested in hearing your constituents' concerns. I don't know how you're going to vote tonight, but if you vote against this mandate, we will not have to replace you too. Thank you.
Very good. And she said it perfectly. If you don't vote yes on the vaccine mandate, we will not have to replace you. The other 6 trustees must be replaced. Now, I mean, I don't mind diversity. When I say diversity, I mean diversity of thought. I wouldn't mind Danielle Ford staying on the board as we replace the other 6. Or if we get a nice conservative, we can get them in, and then I could use Danielle Ford as an advisor. But we need to change this school board. For them to think that they can control what you at home put in your body in order to serve children for a living is beyond reproach. All right, this is now the vice president of the teachers union, Jim Frazee, explaining his feelings and how without saying the union doesn't want to lose revenue, what his case is. Play tape.
Thank you, Madam President. Superintendent Jar, distinguished trustees, for the record, my name is Jim Frazee. I'm a high school teacher here in Clark County. I also have the honor of being vice president of CCEA, and I just have 3 things to address with you today. 1, CCEA, our members, educators, want the safest classrooms possible, but we have some concerns. The reopening so far has been a disaster, and we don't have a lot of faith that this mandate would be any better than the testing and the problems that caused. We want to see the plan before we make a decision, and we're ready to address it. This is a complicated issue, and with all due respect to Superintendent Jar, you haven't done complicated very well this year. So we want to see the plan. The second thing is we have great concerns about its implementation, the unintended consequences. Just last week in Chicago, they tried to ram through a mandate, and hundreds of bus drivers walked off, and parents had to learn that their special ed kids were not going to get a ride to school. Okay? In California, just this morning, 2 school districts shut down and went online because they didn't have the subs to cover the classrooms because they didn't have the teachers. These are unintended consequences. We polled our members, and almost 9,000 people responded. And those responses were that 1,000, up to 1,000 would leave, would walk out. And we can't have that at this moment. The third thing, in your wisdom, if you choose to do this mandate, please be assured that CCA will be at the table and negotiating it with you, protecting people with medical conditions and religious obligations. So thank you for your time.
Don't worry. Don't worry. The CCEA will be at the table. I'm sure they will be. And this is another thing that people have been wondering about. Religious exemptions and medical exemptions. How is that going to go? Because I'm hearing a lot of rumblings that that's not going to go too well. That they're going to be rather strict. I also heard that the Catholic Church of Las Vegas is refusing to give religious exemptions to their parishioners. But I'm wondering how these exemptions are going to go. And somebody said, we don't have to replace 6 trustees. We have to replace 5 because Danielle Ford voted the right way. You could vote against her, but she's not, on our list of trustees we have to get rid of. And they say we have Katie. I'm calling on Katie Williams to make a very clear and concise declaration about how she feels about this and why she didn't insist on getting her vote on the record. She could have somehow, some way said, I officially am voting against it. She could have said that to somebody, I'm guessing. I don't really know how it works. But she couldn't talk about it before the vote, but now the vote has come and gone. So she can make it clear that that's how she feels, if that's how she feels. Oh, I got to play this only because everybody's talking about it. This is Jasmine Maria, and she didn't realize that when patriots love freedom, all these Republicans that people tend to think aren't liberal or loose enough let's see how the conservatives react to this rather progressive acceptance of human nature. Play tape.
Concerns, intuitive concerns, godly concerns, motherly concerns, parenting concerns, all kinds of concerns. Excuse me, but I'm going to have to calm her down. Here, take that. Thank you. All right. So, and thank you for that, because I get crazy eyes for that. But just like we have the right to remain silent, I would like to know that we have the right to choose and refuse something without penalty.
And it got the job done, right? Baby stopped fidgeting. She got to get her thoughts together. And she realized that maybe all them uptight conservatives are really a lot more liberal than you think. We're a lot more accepting. And we don't want to know your business. If you're gay, nobody cares. You don't have to put it in our face, but nobody cares. Nobody cares about the color of anybody's skin over here on the conservative side. And I had to show it only because it was a lot of fun. All right, so now we're going to go to someone who works with the Independent Labor Alliance, Britney Sheehan. She is a great prose writer, and she really knows the issues very well. And I was going to tell you about what she said, but rather let me have her speak for herself. This is Britney Sheehan. Play tape.
I would never enroll my child in CCSD. I don't know why anyone sends their children to government schools, but I'm here today because it's a medical freedom issue and it's a labor issue, and those happen to be my two wheelhouses. So what you guys should really do today is listen to CCEA, take the meeting, discuss it as a labor issue, discuss it as the interest of the district. That needs to happen, that needs to be done. Their role is to protect workers' jobs. Right now, the vaccination rate is 60% vaccinated, 40% unvaccinated. You have 40% of your staff on the chopping block to lose their jobs. It's completely unacceptable. And if these unions do not protect jobs, and they apparently can't negotiate contracts, then it begs the question, why are they labor unions then? And my organization is watching the data, we're looking over the NRS, and if you give me the opportunity, I will try to decertify you, because I will not miss you in the legislature, and I won't lose a wink of sleep at night either. And I'm talking about NEA affiliates too, but what I really want is for you to come to the table, do what you're supposed to do, and represent your workers and protect their jobs, which is not being said in the language that the unions are using. It's not about safety, all these things. You're supposed to protect jobs and negotiate teachers' contracts, and you aren't doing either right now. So I hope I never have to talk to you guys again, because I won't use your schools, but please don't screw over your teachers and staff. Thank you.
All right, first of all, she's hilarious, talking about how she would never send her kids to a government school. And some of these trustees might not know who Britney Sheehan is. I just telling you that if you ever got a whiff of Britney Sheehan, if she threatened to come to you and decertify you, you would take it really, really seriously. And we got a real treat. We got Britney Sheehan on the line to discuss her stance on the vaccine mandate. How you doing, Britney?
Hi, Johnny. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I love having you. You were the star of the July 20th episode of the Johnny Brew Show.
Oh, I appreciate that. When they tried to have me arrested, huh?
Exactly. So you showed up, and as you said, you don't really get too involved in the school board type stuff because you really stay far away from government schools, as you put it. What brought you out there that day?
Well, as I said in my comment, it's because it was a medical freedom issue and a labor issue, and that's really why I came out. And I'll tell you, I got a lot of kudos from the libertarian-minded people in our state for using that phrasing of government schools. So shout out to them for recognizing what I was saying too.
I'm sure there's plenty of things that went over my head during your speech. I could probably watch it 5 times and pick up a little something each time. Tell me more about, because when you talk about like Independent Labor Alliance, that almost sounds like a communist group. So why don't you tell me more about the Independent Labor Alliance?
Well, the focus of my organization is to protect the individual's right to access the private sector. And that sounds a little complicated, but it's not. It's that you should be able to be self-employed, work for yourself, and get a contract and be economically productive. And that's generally what I focus on. And with that, we've had some policy battles with some of the major and national labor unions. So what goes on in labor unions at the NLRB, I'm familiar with the NLRA, which is federal law. So I just kind of picked up on it and said, you know what, I'll just go in there and give them my 2 cents. And I didn't expect to go in there and agree with CCEA, which is an independent union. They're not really nationally affiliated. So they actually have some wiggle room to be the good guys here.
Well, I feel like CCEA is just finding their best way to publicly approach it when they're really trying to say we can't lose 10% of our revenue if we lose 10% of teachers.
Yeah, but they were doing at least something right. And I mean, you played those 2 comments, and while they may have more concern for themselves than clearly the teachers, you're right, they're not concerned about the mandate. They're concerned about the backlash from the mandate. And that's my point, is you should be standing up for the jobs, JOBS, not like, oh, our membership numbers will dwindle, or we're going to have logistical issues at the schools. It's like, no, we're a labor union and we actually protect our members' jobs. That's literally what we do.
First and foremost.
Well, you would think. Foremost, most labor unions are doing too much politicking, and then they forget to represent their workers.
Well, that's my biggest
properly.
problem with the CCEA and the AFT or any teachers union is teachers are notorious for having the worst pay. And if you talk to any CCSD employee with THT, their health care, which is supposed to be good, is, the doctors are turning teachers away now left and right. People have been going to the same OBGYN for 12 years, and they won't even take them anymore because THT is so far backlogged in making their payments. Wouldn't those be the 2 priorities of a union?
Well, I'm going to take a slightly different position on what you just said. And in general, I'm not a fan of public sector unions because they're negotiating against the taxpayer. So when you say they're not getting paid enough, well, where's the taxpayer at the table in this negotiation? So I don't disagree or agree. I just think public sector unions are inherently problematic because it's our money.
Right, you're negotiating against the taxpayer.
Well, we pay for all of the public sector employees, anything that is the government, the taxpayer is funding. So while they get supposedly representation through their union, my question is, well, who's representing the taxpayer? Because when they ask for more money, they're asking us for more money. And by the way, CCSD has a multi-billion-dollar budget, and I had a quote in the RJ this year about that in a legislative hearing. So for the amount of money we're paying, we're getting really, really poor product, and maybe the teachers aren't getting a great deal either. There's a lot of problems, and this is why I just say government schools, maybe it's not the best idea.
Yeah, we spend pre-COVID, before we got this infusion of extra money, and these numbers haven't quite come out yet, but in 2017, 18, 19, $5.2 billion in expenditures every year, and they can't educate the kids. But
clearly,
I really, really appreciate you joining us, and thank you for standing up. And I'm sure we're going to be talking to you a lot more when we talk about other things like the CCRP. Some judgments just came down, and tomorrow night's episode on the Johnny Bruce Show, we're going to be covering that. So thanks for joining us, Brittany, and I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, Johnny.
All right, bye-bye. All right. Guys, you don't want Britney Sheehan coming after you to decertify you or anything. And so moving on, we also had a friend of the Johnny Brew Show make an appearance. This was Lydia Dominguez, who has two school-age children. And, she's in a tough spot because, she's got 2 kids. She's a single mom. She's also a military mom. We don't know what's going on now with the military and stuff like that. She just wrote a book, and you could see the episode where I interview her. I think it was like 3 weeks ago. Don't Turn Back. This is Lydia Dominguez at the school board meeting. Play tape.
Ms. Drake?
Go
ahead.
Good evening, Madam President, trustees. I'm here on Agenda 3.01, approval of the resolution to authorize Superintendent Jara to establish a policy to mandate mandatory vaccinations of employees for COVID-19. I am a military member. I live in Las Vegas. I'm serving in Indian Springs, but I'm here as a mom. I'm here to utilize my freedom of speech. Every single adult in this nation, in this county, has had the opportunity to get the COVID vaccine. I don't think there were many people waiting around for the FDA approval. And those who, when the FDA approval was done, were not satisfied. And we all have questions of why it was so rushed. In a free society, we don't enforce people to take certain measures on themselves. There are no mandates on smoking or vaping. There are no mandates on exercise. There are no mandates on healthy eating. There are no mandates on banning products with high fructose sugar and artificial sweetener. There are no mandates on hygiene like brushing your teeth, wearing deodorant, or wearing underwear. If you put a mandate on weight limitation, you would be categorized as fatophobic and culturally blind or ignorant. I hope today we can all walk away in at least agreement that our teachers, drivers, nurses, staff, aides are all trusted by you and I with our children. They are adults. This freedom was paid in blood. Do not take my brothers and sisters in arms' lives in vain. Please do not allow President Jara, Superintendent Jara, to have the ability to mandate this vaccine. As a parent, I stand with these teachers, bus drivers, nurses, and staff. We should all get back to living our normal lives and rather than spending our lives waiting for the government to tell us what to do. In conclusion, these opinions expressed today are mine and they are not directly affecting United States.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you for your
All right. So, yeah, that was our friend Lydia Dominguez. And, she brings up a really, really interesting point when she says there's no mandates on how much, fructose corn syrup you can ingest. There's no mandates on how many times we can smoke a cigarette or drink a bottle of liquor or, anything. Or now even smoke pot. You can smoke pot 24/7. No mandates. But there's a mandate of some school board trustee is going to decide to give us a mandate. So we're lucky enough to have Lydia Dominguez join us on the phone. How you doing, Lydia?
Hi, Johnny. Thanks for having me.
No, it's my pleasure. So tell me about your appearance, because I know you haven't been this rah-rah political person, and all of a sudden now you're speaking at school board meetings, you're writing books, you're going to rallies. So tell me about your appearance.
Yeah, so like you said, I'm not usually very political. This was my first meeting that I was speaking at. I've been watching the videos from home, and I tell you, I was nervous. I was sweating. I had hungry. I had to leave to go pick up my kids from tutoring and then come back. So I had hungry kids in the car, and I was like, I'm not going to make it back in time. So I came back to speak, and then I had to leave again to drop them off, and then I wanted to stick till the end. So I dropped them off, got them some pizza, and then came back to the meeting. And I mean, it was very nerve-wracking. It's completely different experience when you're there live. When you have like the gun of the government, right? Like, they're using, physical threat of the police to kick you out if you even start clapping, if you even start cheering. And so it was kind of, I felt it was very aggressive at some points. When I spoke, I was super nervous. And it's really hard because you're thinking about all these things, the mandates, and you're really thinking, I was thinking about my brothers in arms, and especially the Marines and that had passed away recently. And we all know that freedom has not come in free. Like there was a cost, and the cost was death, and it was paid. And now is that in vain? Are we taking our freedom in vain? We all assume the risk when we walk out our front door and get into our car that we might die. We all assume that risk when we drink an energy drink or have candy or just junk food, and we know we might be taking a risk, like, oh, I might choke on this popcorn, or I might my heart might get
freedom comes with responsibility, and freedom comes with risk. I mean, it's inherent in freedom. And I really liked your point. I've probably, like you, I've been watching all these videos, and you really had a new, fresh perspective about something that has been said. There's not signs, there's not mandates that you could only drink 7 Cokes a week. There's no mandates that you could only go to McDonald's twice a week. And I'll tell you right now, cutting out soda from your diet is probably a better protection against COVID than the vaccine after 7 months.
Yes.
So tell me more about your point.
My point was that I was trying to make is like, look, we trust these people, these adults, with our children. Like, we're trusting them with our precious package, right? Our future. And we can't trust them to take care of their own health. Like, that doesn't make sense. I'm trusting you with my child, and I can't trust you to take care of yourself, to take care of your own body. Like that, it just doesn't make sense. And we're getting away from like common sense,
Right, it's like mandating brushing your teeth.
Oh, yeah. Or wearing underwear. I said that too, or deodorant.
And then you're talking about your brothers at arms. I mean, the entire military, it looks like they're going to be mandated to get the vaccine. I mean, how does that make you feel? I don't want to put you on the spot. I know you can't speak about your personal situation. I wouldn't even ask. But, like, what's going on with these mandates from the military to our schools, and having, at least in the military, you have the President of the United States making that decision. When you're talking about teachers, it's some girl on the school board who's doing this part-time on the side, deciding whether or not you should get a vaccine.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're not even doctors, and we're supposed to just like allow them to bring doctors that we don't know and don't know their qualifications to try to help them make a decision. And then to give the approval decision to JARA, Superintendent JARA. It just seems so shady. It's like, can we just, take care of our kids and have
just teach them. Just teach them. Teach them some history, teach them some math, and I'll take care of my kid. That's it.
Exactly. And you take care of yourself, and I'll take care of me, you take care of you.
Anyway, so give me 10 seconds. Sell your book again. Tell everybody where they could get it, what it's about, and how to get it without going to the man for it.
Yeah, thank you. So I did just write a book, as you know. We did an interview. It was amazing. Please go and watch it. And you can, it's called Don't Turn Back. It's about just giving women the tools that they need to just not go back to domestic violence. Everything from financial independence to breaking down barriers, breaking down, spirituality and emotional abuse and physical abuse, and just realizing, giving people the tools they need so they don't have to go back to those relationships. You can find my book on my website, Lydia Dominguez, LYDIADOMINGUEZ.com. And I'll put the link in the comments. And it was a great interview. I had lots of fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lydia. Congratulations on your big appearance. And thank you for your service in more ways than one.
Thank you, Johnny.
All right, I'll talk to you later, Lydia.
Okay, bye.
All right, so there you go. Again, it's one thing if the President of the United States is mandating a vaccine, which I don't agree with. It's another thing if Lola Brooks is mandating a vaccine for you and your family. Anyway, let's go to what the board members had to say. All right, and also I wanted to thank everybody for commenting. I see Gloria and Mother Hen. And yes, Miss Diva, we are live right now. Live from Las Vegas. It's Saturday night on the Johnny Brew Show. So let's hear what, for example, Lola Brooks. Hold on, we're going to cue that up. But we're going to go and hear what Lola Brooks had to say before the vote, and also what Danielle Ford had to say before the vote. If we just go to 122 of that particular video, and we can play that tape, and, you know, obviously we know how they end up voting, right? But this is Lola Brooks explaining why she voted the way she did.
I'm not a health expert. I'm an expert in sifting through information and determining which sources are the most credible at this moment in time. And I recognize when somebody has expertise in a field like epidemiology that I don't have. And I don't have countless hours to do this research. I trust the scientific community. There is a world where
She just said she doesn't have the time to research it, and she's not an epidemiologist. Then abstain from the vote. First of all, you should vote no. JARA does not have the power to mandate a vaccine. But if you believe that there should be a vaccine mandate because of what you saw on CNN, but you haven't had the time to do the research, or you're not an epidemiologist, say that. Say, I support a vaccine mandate, but I am not, as a school board trustee, in a position to make this decision for somebody else. I'm sorry. I don't want to vote for or against it. I abstain. For you to think that you have the power, someone will get seriously hurt. All right? If you make, all right, say there's 35,000 people, 36,000 employees, 2/3 of them have been vaccinated, so 12,000 haven't. If you make 12,000 people get vaccinated, one of them are going to get hurt. And that's going to be on you. A school board trustee getting a $2,000 stipend for some part-time board meetings. That's not your place. Here's Danielle Ford on why she was the lone dissenting vote. Play tape.
I would support this if we didn't have such a severe staff shortage. If we hadn't recently paid the most experienced principals and department leaders to leave. If we had a way to rehire staff later. If we had incentivized, if we had communicated better, if we knew that a mandate would make all the difference, if there was a clear plan and a contingency plan in case that plan failed.
You know, I am not impressed with her reasoning. But I think her singular biggest reason for voting against it was because she listened to her constituents. I don't think this should be a staffing issue, even though that lends itself to not do it. This is personal choice and liberty. Again, the argument that, you know, we've been making kids get measles shots before they go to school. They've been getting this shot since 1950. The clinical research, 10-year, 20-year studies have been done on it. This is an experimental gene therapy for a disease that does not affect children. Schools have been proven to be the safest place in the world. Safer than Walmart, safer than a restaurant, safer than a bar, safer than a ball game. Schools are the safest place to be. It is the area of least transmission. But nonetheless, the vote passed, and now teachers are scrambling. And this is what happens with bureaucratic BS. You know who's not going to get the vaccine? The people who could find the best exemptions. And people are going, you know, there's going to be somebody who deserves an exemption that's going to get it denied. And there's surely going to be somebody who doesn't really have the right to that particular exemption. Of course, they have the right to deny it because we live in America. But with this mandate, they might not deserve the particular medical or religious exemption they get, and they're going to not take the vaccine. That's going to happen. The more laws you make, the more the government is in our lives, the more it comes down to decision justice. What laws you want to enforce and what laws you don't. Or who do you want to target as a law enforcement official, as opposed to just keeping the laws simple and finding the people who break the laws. The more laws we have, the less justice. And this is going to come down to who could come up with the better story to get out of getting vaccinated. If you're in the military, if you're a teacher at the school, the way to get out of the vaccine is you scrambling around right now trying to figure out what kind of an exemption you qualify for. And somebody who doesn't know somebody, it's all who you know. If you don't know somebody and you don't know where to get that exemption, you can't go on Facebook, hey, does anybody know where I could qualify for an exemption? It's bureaucracy and it's big government. And CCSD is not going to survive this. The country is not going to survive Joe Biden's presidency. And CCSD is not going to survive with this board and this superintendent. And I'm sorry, that's all I got for you. All right. Thank you so much. Let's take a look at some of your comments real quick. Hold on. First, we're conducting a vast toxicological experiment in which our children and our children's children are the experimental subjects. That's a quote from Dr. Herbert Needleman from Yoko Yokio. Thanks for sharing. She also said, and new fan, Yoko. And Yoko, just so you know, my maternal patriarchy were all named Yoshiko and something else. So I would be a Yoshi if I wasn't a John. Alex Rodriguez, you want to call in? All right, Alex Rodriguez, the phone line is open for you. I think you know the number. And Yoko also said, in an outbreak of measles in Western Sydney in 1993, 73% of cases occurred in children aged 5 to 9 years who had been vaccinated against measles. That's the Medical Journal of Australia in 1995. She also said because in the U.S., young women no longer get natural measles. They are unable to pass on any natural protection to their babies. And that is why she's explaining why we have the measles vaccine. Mother Hen says, why mandate if it doesn't stop transmission or last? Makes zero sense. It just goes back to the same point I made a little bit earlier about Alex Rodriguez. You're going to have to call the Johnny Brew Show hotline. The number is 702-501-5304. The number is 702-501-5304. And Mother Hen, I also said, why is a teacher who got vaccinated in January, whose immunity ran out, okay, but somebody who caught COVID in January, who has natural immunity, not okay? You're right. These things just don't make sense. Gloria says COVID-19 vaccines are part of the larger problem. The abortion industrial complex and the immoral practices of biomedical researchers and the pharmacological industry. And that's a quote from Population Research Institute. Yeah, that's something we have to come to terms with. Are we dealing with evil people? We tend to give people the benefit of the doubt. But at some point, we got to ask the question, are we really just dealing with evil people? Britney Sheehan says you don't need a church to sign on for religious exemption. It just needs to be a sincerely held belief. Well, then I don't understand. Why is the Catholic Church announcing they're not going to be giving out exemptions? And, I mean, I agree with you, Brittany, but is CCSD going to accept that? You just go down there and be like, I have a sincerely strong religious belief that I don't want gene therapy, or that I don't want something that was made with aborted baby parts, or that whatever other religious reason that you may or may not have. All right, and Wendy, tuning in late, so started from the beginning. All right, well, by the time you see me giving you a shout out, I'll surely, hopefully, be home eating dinner by then. And yeah, and Brittany says because they don't want people to think they don't qualify. So they're trying to not be so obvious with this fact. I keep getting a call on the wrong phone, and I'm guessing it's Alex Rodriguez. It is. Alex, I'm going to call you. Jeez. Why don't I just call you, Alex? All right. What's going on, Alex Rodriguez? You're live on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on here. I'm actually at the Golden Knights practice rink right now. I was getting a little skating workout, and I took a break. I saw your show on here. I'm on the side now. It's real quiet, so I just wanted to step on and just give you my input if you had any questions or anything. Because I was at the school district meeting.
Well, give me a 60-second summary of what you saw, Alex.
Just about 99% of the people, again, this is another situation, they are not listening to us, and it's just disgusting what is in my eyes right now of what we all just witnessed. I'm pretty speechless at this moment. The whole board, just like I said, we need a whole clean out is what we really need.
That's what I believe 100%.
Yep.
So you're going to run for school board?
I don't think I'm in that position. I think there are better, I'm going to be honest, I think there are better candidates better than me. If you run for school board, you need to know your Nevada Constitution first. I think that is a requirement for anything, for any position in office you decide to run for. You better know the Nevada Constitution. And this is a problem that we have right now. People just don't know our own Constitution. And they don't even teach us this stuff in high school. I'm still learning this now at 32 years old. I'm now starting to learn what is in our Nevada Constitution, and this is just unbelievable.
Well, I agree. And number one, thank you very much for the call, Alex. I really appreciate it. And I agree 100% that CCSD needs to get to the business of teaching our kids, teaching about the Nevada Constitution, the United States Constitution, math, logical thinking, analytical thinking, reading the classics, reading some Shakespeare, reading some Edgar Allan Poe or Walt Whitman or any of these stories like George Orwell. And, of course, they should be reading some contemporary stuff and learning about the contemporary world, but not having it shoved down their throat and being all about that. We are evolving. And again, just like the breastfeeding, what's her name? Jasmine Maria. It's all good. We are the liberal party. Liberals want to be left alone, and they believe in free speech. If you're a liberal, now you are a Republican. 2022's coming, guys. We're going to have a big special about who's running for school board in 2022 and who's up for re-election in 2024. All right? Keep your eyes open. I think I'm going to be starting a school board watch and campaign group. All right, let me know what you think about that in the comments. Tell me if you want me to start a school board watch group and a school board campaign group so we can start looking at just school board members. Because that's what they're doing, my friends in Long Island and the Long Island Loud Majority. That's where they took their fight. They're supporting Lee Zeldin for governor. They're supporting the down ballot candidates, but they're concentrating their fight on school board races, and they're making an incredible difference. And that's going to be my inspiration. Thank you, Long Island Loud Majority. Look them up on Facebook. Thank you, Lydia, Alex, Brittany, for joining us. Guys, tomorrow there's going to be a special on Afghanistan, and there's also going to be a special on, I did another show. I don't even remember what I did it on. What was the second show about? We did Afghanistan, and what was the first show about? I got to promo my stuff. I don't even remember my own shows. I don't even remember. But we have 2 awesome shows coming out tomorrow. Oh, and the an update on the CCRP drama with the email sent out, the decision by Judge Gonzalez, and we had a couple of great guests come on and let us know their feelings from polar sides of the Republican Party here in Clark County. So, great show. Thank you so much. Check out our friends. Chris, I'm going to be Juggalo Patriot. I'm going to be checking out the PAA podcast tonight as I'm getting ready for bed. Michelle, I already saw your great shows. Guys, check out Grab It TV. Michelle Mortensen's back. Chris Dyer, the Juggalo Patriot at the PAA podcast. Don't forget the Meltdown with Darian Anthony. Sign up on Facebook to Common Sense Nevada, the Johnny Brew Show. And send us anything you want. 702-501-5403, I think. 5304 702-501-5304, the Johnny Brew Show at gmail.com. And please subscribe, like, share, help us grow, because I'm telling you right now, I know I've got a dozen people who look forward to my show, so I ain't going nowhere. I don't care if it's 12 people or 1,200 people. We're going to be right here on the Johnny Brew Show. Love you guys. I'll see you next week.